Well, a very good afternoon to you and welcome to the Farm Kenya show. I'm Nokip Kimboy. And today we have a very interesting discussion. If you were born in the 80s, 90s, I'm not saying you're old, but most likely if you grew up in the village, there is a likelihood that you knew somebody who worked in the agricultural department. And that person had a motorcycle or a small car that they used to visit farmers to help farmers with one thing or the other. We're talking about extension services. It was very prominent back in the day. Then all of a sudden, it just went down. What changed? And now there is effort to revitalize and revive extension services in Kenya. Of course, in the age that we're living in, being the 21st century, everyone is on TikTok, Facebook. How do we utilize technology to bring this change? That will be our discussion today. And in studio, we have people who are doing it because we're all about getting the experience and sharing this information because we do believe that information is power. On my immediate left is Julius Oweru, who's an agripreneur, and he offers extension services, which is very interesting because we'll be talking about within the extension value chain, what are the opportunities for business? Traditionally, it was known as a government initiative, but right now there are many players even from the private sector. How do we make sure that there is that viability of business? And also at the far end we have Peter Mwangi, who's the CEO of Kenya Forum for Agricultural Advisory Services. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for making time to speak to us. And for starters, just to lay the foundation, I want to start with you, Julius, because you are an extension, you are an agripreneur, but you do extension services. In basic language, when you talk about extension services, what is it? What does it entail?
So thanks, Noah. So basically, when you talk of extension, extension is all about reaching out to farmers or giving. It's just like the word says, extension, extending. You're extending the knowledge you have, the skills you have to farmers. So basically extension is you package the skills, the knowledge that in essence the agriculture, bits of information and you simply package it and give it to farmers in the most simplest way, in the most basic way. So you don't go there talking about the botanical names and what have you, the active ingredients in pesticides and what have you. We just decode it in the simplest way that a farmer will understand.
Okay.
Yes.
Peter, Mr. Mwangi, it is simplifying information, but from an expert. You know, sometimes experts, when you sit amongst experts yourself, you talk in jargons. But when a farmer needs something, I'm seeing my leaf is becoming yellow and I don't know what is happening. Then you need to come and explain to me, oh, there is this thing that you're supposed to add. Maybe this plant is missing a particular nutrient. But from where you sit, how do you describe extension services and how far and wide does the service go?
Thank you very much. Extension, as my colleague has said, is extending information. But basically, we have the source of information, which is either from research institution, where we are talking of technologies, we are talking of innovations, or even management practices. We call it TIMS, T-I-M-P, and then a small s. So these technologies, innovation, and management practices have been done and tested and research done in institution, but it is not in a form which can be consumed by the farmers at the farm level. So the extension really offers that linkage between the researchers and the farmers, where we decode that information from very technical jargons to information which can easily be used by the farmers.
Okay.
That is extension.
All right.
Yeah.
I love, it's about carrying the resources that we have and it being a solution in different, because farmers vary in their different contexts. And I think that's a very important thing. Now, Julius, I mean, just looking, you look young, most likely we are age mates, yeah? And growing up, I used to see, as I said earlier, there used to be somebody with a motorbike in the village, and they used to go around and help farmers. I don't know whether it's modernization, but it seems for you to go into the world of extension, what was the motivation? Was it a job that decided that we're gonna throw in agriculture, or you saw a need in farmers that you as a young person could fill?
That's a very interesting question. And firstly, I have a BSc in agribusiness management. So foremost, I did agribusiness management as a course and through passion, that is. But my perception was it wasn't to go to the farms and offer what I'm doing currently. I thought I would go to like Equity Bank and other agribusiness enterprises where I would just sit and recommend people on loans and other things. But actually, everything changed, because even if right now you walk to any university, then any student who is pursuing agribusiness management, in his mind, is not thinking about going to the farms and what have you. But when he sets foot after completing the university level, the whole realm changes. So this is how it started. It's a story. After I graduated, I didn't have the opportunities like I thought. So I got my internship at Caro. At Caro, I did the normal jobs, manuals here and there. Then that's where I got some skills, now the practical skills.
Okay.
But again, as maybe we'll see later how it has all transitioned, is that government is no longer offering extension services in the traditional model like they used to.
Yes.
Having those motorbikes and you would know an extension agent by name. It's not the case nowadays. So there are challenges that I started to identify while I was working in the institution. First of all, there was an issue with farmers would buy seedlings, but they had no one to follow up the seedlings or even help them to plant the seedlings. So that was one of the things that I started to realize. So over time they would request for the services.
Okay.
Can you come over the weekend? Can you come over the week? But you see, I was tied. I couldn't do it over the week. So the only time that I had was over the weekend. But with time, the task overwhelmed. So I had to drop from the institution now to work independently so that I could serve these farmers.
Oh, I see that. And you said something interesting, which I want to bring in, Peter. Government was no longer offering extension services as they used in the traditional model. I mean, talk to us about this transition. What changed from me seeing people with motorbikes to where we are right now, what Julius is describing as a totally different ballgame when it comes to matters extension?
Yeah, thank you. When we come to extension, before we used to have different types of extension approaches. We had this very heavily funded extension approach, which was called TNV, training and visit. It's known in those 80s, whereby the extension officers were facilitated by World Bank, and it was a very comprehensive project. But when the project came to an end, of course, the funding went down. So from there, the government was not able to sustain that funding, and the government, there was a policy shift. The policy shifted from this supply-driven extension to demand-driven extension, whereby farmers should be able to know exactly the type of service they want, and then they should be able to demand. And this one was as a result of the number of extension services which have drastically reduced. Because from 1989, the government froze employment. So they were not employing. And even today, if you look at the ratio of extension to farmers, it is quite high. In most cases, it's between 1 to allowed 3,500. So it means one extension officer is serving 3,500 farmers. So you can imagine if he's visiting them every day, he will require almost 7 years to visit them. So the government had a policy shift to demand-driven, and as such, now the farmers should be able to really articulate what they want and go to the headquarters where we have the extension officers, and then they get for those service. So that was a policy shift, which was actually stipulated in the National Agriculture Sector Extension Policy 2012. Yeah.
All right. And the impact of policy is massive. You talk about supply-driven to demand-driven extension.
Sure.
And Julius, you just telling us your story, I see that shift where farmers would ask you, this is what I'm doing, can you come and help me? Where is the balance? Because sometimes, especially as a farmer, most likely you might know sometimes and you might not know the services that you need. Sometimes you might see things are going well, then you're like, okay, I'm fine. Then at the end of the day, when it comes to harvesting, you missed something. So how do you balance, especially as an extension service provider, because you are innovating there, where you go to the farmers and tell them, you know what, this is what you need right now, yeah? Vis-a-vis the farmer telling you, this is what I need, because you are the expert sometimes, and sometimes you have to tell them, by the way, you need this instead of that. How do you balance those two?
So that's another interesting question. So this is how it's panning out, and by the number of years that I've been in extension, this is how things are working out. First of all, I've realized that you need to have a product. That product is what will keep now the farmer glued for you now to continue extending the service. So to start with, I run some nurseries, the Ukulima Modern Seedlings and Nurseries, where I give, we have 4 tenets, the seedlings, then farmer trainings, then agricultural advisory and extension services, then the 4th tenet is on agricultural consultancy. So you need first of all to have like a product that you're offering, like now the seedlings. If I, like for my case, for instance, if now I'll sell you seedlings, I make a follow-up. You see, then I'll give you a nutritional program. I'll tell you that if today we transplant, you need to at least do DAP or TSP as the planting fertilizer. Then after 1 month, this is what you need to do. At the 3rd month, this is what you need to do. So you see, the farmer might not demand the service like he or she has seen as the crops portray, but at least you've told him or her from the go that from month 1, month 2, month 3, this is what you need. So there's that part of having the product, you give it to the farmer, then you still push it through. Yeah. Then there are some other models that for my case I've adopted. I'm in social media platforms, in almost all social media platforms.
Okay.
So anytime I visit your farm, I'll showcase that. If I come to your farm and I'll see some fruits, they have some mishaps, I'll post. Then you, the farmer, who is within my realm, you realize that, oh, my fruits are also like this. So you see, it will be more like you being vigilant. And you see, there's also another facet that we are really trying to maybe I can say help farmers to realize, what we call scouting. Be a friend to your farm. You see, we say that you change your farm story, you own your farm. So be a friend to your farm, make sure that you're scouting. Okay. With scouting, you'll be able to see 1, 2, 3 things.
All right.
Yes.
That's important. It's quite interesting, Mr. Peter, because you noted that policy shift actually sort of laid the foundation of what you're experiencing today as extension farming. The impact of that policy shift. Yeah. I'd like you to help me understand how it's impacted our food productivity, our food systems, where power, of course, due to policy shift, was handed over to the farmers. And now they dictated whether they need it or not. Was that the right direction? Is there a fine balance between supply-driven and demand-driven extension services?
Yeah, thank you very much. That one actually had a lot of impact on the food insecurity, because what happened, the farmers felt like they were left out. And even today, you hear farmers talking of, we don't see extension anymore, because one of the key challenges was to articulate that policy shift to the farmers. Because if they are not aware that we have had a policy shift, then they will still sit down waiting for the extension service providers. And that one has been having a very bad effect on our food systems. And that is why we as KEFAS have been trying to work with the digital connectors to be able to complement what the government is doing. We have 7 digital connectors who are in Moranga. Julius is one of them, who we have been able to train on agripreneurship. Okay. So they are trained, because after doing the first degree, the BSc, and you are told to go to the field and become an agripreneur, you have no idea of how to do this business. So we were able to take them through a process for 1 year to be able to really package business thinking in them, bringing an issue of the business thinking in their careers. And from there, they have really taken it up very well. We were able also to support them to be able to start those small businesses. Like Julius is doing very good in the nurseries. And out of the nurseries, he's offering some follow-up activities. And you see, when you visit the farm, now you're able to sort quite a number of problems. Now, the main challenge here was more on crop. But if you look at animals, I think the veterinarians had already privatized their business. Because if the animal gets sick, the farmers will call a doctor and they will pay for him. But now when it comes to agriculture, it has always been treated as a public good. So the challenge has been making the farmers pay for these services. But now the shifting is going now. If farmers are able to see the value in it, they have started paying. And that's what Julius is saying, that they offer as enough, let's say, as an embedded service to the product they are selling to the farmers. If he sells avocado, then he'll be able to give the after-sale service, and in the process, the farmer will pay. So we must be able to use very innovative approaches to make the farmers pay. Number 2, we have embraced the issue of digital technologies, whereby the 7 of them have been equipped with tablets and a lot of information, and linked to the existing extension within the county, the sub-county extension officers, to give them some form of backstopping. And the way we are doing this is that they are owned by the county, so that the county can be able to really appreciate that they are complementing what the extension officers are doing, because they are very few, and they are not even able to offer those services because they don't have even mobility. They don't have those motorcycles. So that one has become a challenge, and that's what we are trying to address.
And I'm glad you've mentioned that challenge, because digitization is actually posed as a solution to the challenges that we face right now. Now, there's this famous statistic that is normally thrown around when we have agricultural conversation. What is the average age of a farmer in Kenya? They're like 60. That is an old person. And you wonder when, okay, if that is the case, and now you're trying to digitize, of course, let us not assume that if you're 60 and above, you're not as tech savvy as you should be. But the rate of innovation is just too high these days. So, Julius, since you're innovating and you've created sort of an ecosystem where it's not just, demand-driven in terms of these farmers asking for services, but you also offering your expertise based on the value chain that you've started. I sell you a seedling, and I advise you on how to make sure that this is productive. That element of digitization. I know you had mentioned that you're utilizing social media, you're posting. How effective is digitization at this age and time, especially case in point where you are? Is it Murang'a County? Case in point in Murang'a. How has digitization helped with this journey of extending extension service?
So there's one thing that we can't escape in this era: technology. So everybody is embracing technology. So whoever is not embracing technology will soon be wiped out. So, but basically, almost the phone coverage has really skyrocketed.
Okay.
So currently, I guess the penetration is more than 40%. So in every homestead, you can't miss someone with a smartphone. You see? So one of the ways that make sure that they might not be so digitized per se in quotes to go to the website and maybe download some materials or go to YouTube. But there's one thing that is so clear, using the WhatsApp status.
WhatsApp status?
WhatsApp status.
Uh-huh.
WhatsApp status is a game changer and actually has been working. Then these farmers, they have the basic skill of taking photos and sending to you. That's digitization. Then you'll see, you'll try to analyze, then maybe you'll call that person or you'll tell that person, kindly call me, I'll explain. Because again, you don't want to keep calling for, you see, that person might not pay for this extra cost. But if he or she can call, at least you can be able to help and offer a solution. But again, depending on whatever he or she has shared, and maybe the situation is a bit complicated, you just tell him or her that I'll visit the farm, depending on the situation. So digitization is as simple as just seeing WhatsApp status, relating to your problems, and just commenting.
Okay. Yeah, that's very interesting. Peter, I
want to add something.
Yes.
I want to add something on that, because the average age of a Kenyan farmer is around 60 years. That is from statistics. But this is because I think this one we may have to put a disclaimer that it's the ownership of land. But we have a number of young people who are now embracing agriculture and looking at different value chain nodes where they can be able to offer services. Okay. So even if the average age of a farmer is 60 years, what we have been able to try to do with the digital connectors is that we have been able to build their capacity so that they can be able to develop very short videos. And because the concentration span of these people may not be very high, so we are having, let's say, one of the skills which they would be interested. Like, let's say they want to do grafting. So you just do that. Then you do it in a video. Then you share with these people through WhatsApp. Okay. And they are able to see in 3 dimensions. And possibly, if possible, in their local languages, they are able to hear. And that one is really helping us to be able to bridge this gap of the level of literacy and the phone usage. So that is the nexus we are trying to do, and they are doing it very well. So we have very many short videos which we have developed, and us as an organization, we also develop videos which you can always get from our YouTubes on different aspects of production, focusing on extension messages and how these practices can be done.
Wow, that's incredible. Peter Mwangi is the CEO of Kenya Forum for Agricultural Advisory Services, and Julius Wawewe is an agripreneur who offers extension services, and he's doing it. When you talk about ground, vitu kuwa different, he is the actual ground you're talking about, because he interacts with farmers and offers this solution. We want to take a short break, but when you come back, there is what we've been discussing here. It's called pluralistic approach to extension. All hands on deck. How can you make sure that the private sector, the public sector, policy, and even farmers, everyone in the agricultural value chain actually is participating to make sure that extension services does not only make a comeback, but makes a strong comeback? Stay tuned right here at Farm Kenya.